Today, I'm joined by an engineer turned founder of a newly launched marketplace for services designed to help consumers outsource any kind of tasks to trusted ID verified taskers in a simple and secure way. He was part of the Adapt innovation team of Bain & Company, where he supported companies and corporations to innovate, adapt, and reinvent their products, strategies, and methodologies. He is a highly skilled engineer, manager, and instructor, having worked on rebuild and development projects throughout Berlin. Having had the pleasure of knowing him for the past 4 years, it is a great pleasure to introduce Lorenzo, founder of Grazia. So welcome to the show, Lorenzo. How are you doing?
I'm very, very good. Thank you so much for having me here. Really, really excited to be talking about Lean Startup with you.
Perfect. And yeah, I mean, you jumped straight into it. So the focus of the talk today is around the idea of the lean startup methodology. So I've come with a trusted book from Eric Ries, which has obviously been popular for a while now, but I think I picked it up roughly about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, had no idea what it was, started to read it, then started to work with more companies who thought that way. And then now we fast forward, I kind of wanted to just share it with people from somebody who's actually implemented it. So just to quickly explain what it is, it's a methodology for developing businesses and products, aims to shorten the product development cycle and rapidly discover if a proposed business model is obviously viable. So it's achieved through adapting combination of business hypothesis driven experimentation, iteration of product releases, and obviously validated learning. So before we jump into anything specific about how it's implemented or anything like that, just to explain why obviously you're on the call, you have obviously just launched your own business, Grazia, and you've basically been using the lean startup methodology pretty much since day one, if I'm right. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. To be fair, like I started using Lean Startup or as you did, I discovered Lean Startup was when I was an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and found myself so many times being in the situation to build things that I was asking myself, like, why am I really doing it? Is it worth it? Is it the right thing? Uh, how should we really build it, and why, and so on and so forth. And since then, I never really abandoned it, and
Yeah.
I carry it with me throughout my whole career. And I would say that, yeah, definitely the most important time for me was when I used the Lean Startup was definitely in the process of creating Grazia, and throughout the whole
Yeah.
development of Grazia as a product and as a business.
So you've used it obviously in your current business that we're just founding. So we'll talk about that in a second. You've used it in your former company, obviously Bain and Company, and obviously we'll touch upon how you've actually helped implement it into larger corporations. And if we have time on this video, as far as I'm aware, you've also used it in your previous company before Bain and Company as well. But obviously we'll see if we've got time for that. But before we dive into how it's used in a corporation, how it's used potentially in a new startup, can you explain what is the actual key teachings of what the lean methodology is trying to help us achieve?
Yeah. So in the definition that you were saying before of the lean startup, there's actually a lot of meat in there. There's a lot to unpack. Um, and I would like to focus on three aspects, which, yeah, are to me the three key learnings are really, really important, and that everyone that would like to try Lean Startup should follow.
Mm-hmm.
Before jumping to that, I want to say just one thing. You were saying that Lean Startup is a methodology, which is absolutely correct. What I would like to add is that Lean Startup is an Agile methodology, which I think is very, very important,
Mm-hmm.
because that means that for all the people, all the companies that are already using Agile, it means that they can, include Lean Startup in their processes without having to change radically. They might, even if they decide to not adopt Lean Startup entirely, they might be able to just take bits and bytes here and there and just add them to their Agile development process. But yeah, back to the key learnings and the key teachings. So the first one is absolutely about validated learning, which basically means that you as a founder, you as a product person, part of a product team, anything, you can have a lot of assumptions and you can have a lot of hypotheses, and your hypothesis can be more or less accurate. They can be right or wrong, of course. They can be based on more or less in-depth research, but they are hypotheses, and you should accept that. You should embrace that, and you should uh, aim, or you should find ways to transform these hypotheses into facts.
Mhm.
And that is where lean validated learning comes into play, right? You want to constantly be learning. You constantly want to um, test your hypothesis and learn from these tests, and which means finding ways to actually test this hypothesis, and maybe most importantly, finding ways to measure your these tests, right? So, am I actually learning something? Yes or no? I think this is very, very, very critical, and you have to do it by adopting or seeking real metric proof in constant to vanity metrics, which I think is something that everyone is very, very simple to fall into that pitfall, and choosing metrics and KPIs that do not really prove or disprove your assumption, but they make you or your idea or your product or your feature look good. It's when you do lean startup, but I think in general, if you build something, you want to build the right thing.
Mhm.
And you cannot expect to be building always the right thing and to be always building the right thing at the first try, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be wrong. Embrace that. Try to find ways to prove yourself right or wrong as soon as possible, as fast as possible. So adopt real metric proof and not vanity metrics.